This week on Dad Awesome, I have the privilege to chat with Jeff Kemp down in Little Rock, Arkansas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be with you. It won't be hard for me to remember your name.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Jeff on Jeff podcast. Well, I've been excited for this conversation for a while, though, to talk about your dad life and how what God has shown you, and then also talk a little bit about you being a son and your connection with your dad and how he was a dad to you. And we usually hit both sides, but will you start with just introducing yourself for our listeners?
Yeah. I'm married to my wife, Stacy. We've been married for 37 years. We've got 4 sons. They're all grown. They're all married. They've all got kids. They're just getting started with the little kids thing, like 1-year-old and 6-month-old and 3-month-old. One of them in New York City has a 3-year-old, so they're kind of the furthest down the road. But we have 4 grandkids and another one coming in the summer. And I played football for 11 years in the NFL and played at Dartmouth before that, and grew up in a home with a dad that was an NFL quarterback, played for the Buffalo Bills. So his being a superstar quarterback, he was a championship quarterback, a most valuable player in Buffalo. And then he ran for Congress and did big things with his life, like run for president and run for vice president, things like that. I grew up with a little bit of a performance cloud over me, as if I wouldn't be really a superstar or a success unless I was something big. And my dad didn't put that on me, but I just kind of naturally developed it. And I had a great dad. I can tell you more about him. But so that's who I am. Father of 4 sons, husband to Stacy, son of Joanne and Jack. I got a little brother 12 years younger and 2 sisters that are 3 and 6 years younger than me. And what I do is I reach men. I build men. I speak to men. I lead conferences. I lead retreats. I put on my own. I do them for churches. I do them for men's conferences. And I also work with leaders who reach other men. So I do stuff with CEOs to integrate their faith and help them with relationships, marriage, family, their team, their culture. And so that's kind of the mix of it. Men's ministry, some leadership ministry, and then Christian speaking.
Wonderful. And I know, so I've never been a quarterback before, but I know from watching quarterbacks, this idea of a blitz, a whole other team coming at you with extra men coming after you, the quarterback. And I read in your book this idea of a blitz being a sudden, overwhelming bombardment. I feel like today, fatherhood's always a blitz, right? Our kids are always blitzing us with things that we're not ready for. But today, here we are, April 2nd, 2020, right in the middle of COVID-19, coronavirus, this blitz that we've been faced with as dads.
Yeah.
Would you talk for a moment about how we can, as dads, be ready for this blitz coming at us right now?
Well, let's just talk about the blitz idea for a minute. Yeah. Then we'll turn to the moment in history, which is really, really unique and dangerous, but also an opportunity, right? Because what a blitz is it's a moment where there is great danger and risk that you might not be able to block those extra defenders. They may hit the quarterback, cause a fumble, interception, injury, a sack. But at the same time, if the offense is prepared and if you know how to adapt quickly and you're willing to change instead of just stick with the same old play, right? Then because it's man-to-man coverage and there might be no free safety, you can change the route, hit a receiver, pop a big play, maybe score a touchdown on the worst play of the game where you end up on your back. And that's happened to me before, where I get hit in the face and I'm on my back, but everyone changed just in time and I got the ball off and it won the game. So that's the opportunity side of a blitz. And the Chinese language has a symbol for crisis, which is both danger and opportunity together, like yin and yang. So that's the football metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And the spiritual background to it is God is a God of blitzes. Jesus took a blitz on the cross, went in the grave. They all thought it was a failure. It was brutal. All the guys scattered. Peter denied him. Judas betrayed him. It was the worst ending possible, but it wasn't the end. 3 days later, it was just what he intended. He turned that blitz around for victory. Lazarus' story. Jesus lets the blitz get worse before he makes it better, right?
Right.
Joseph's story. Everything goes bad for his whole stinking life until all of a sudden he's number 2 in Egypt and he saves the country and his family, and what the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good. That's a blitz.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's take it to coronavirus, COVID-19, government choices to shut down businesses, no more events. I'm not giving speeches. I'm not making any income. Worse than my life, people run restaurants, people working in restaurants, people who have no savings aren't getting paychecks. Some guys have been fired already, right? Dad is insecure. There weren't many weeks of money. There might not been many days of money. So not only the health scare, but the economic impact and the uncertainty of it. This is a blitz. You know, Jesus said, in this world, you're going to get blitzed, but don't panic.
Yeah.
I've overcome the blitz.
That's right.
That's the NFL version, John 16:33. So here's the picture. We can't see things through our short-term lenses and do well in the blitz.
Yeah.
We need God's long-term vision, his lenses. And there's a strategy for beating blitzes. I write about it in the book. The number one is you got to have a long-term view. Number two, you got to be willing to change. Be humble enough to say, I got to do something different. I can't do the same thing. Frankly, some of the change might be, this is a time where God's inviting me to change as a husband, to change as a dad, to change as a man, to change in my faith, maybe to make my faith real instead of, I go to church sometimes and, Christianity, yes, I want to go to heaven. No, it's Jesus is way more than that. Maybe now's the time to change. So number one, willingness. Number one is the long-term vision. Number two, the willingness to change. Number three, you can't focus on yourself as a victim. You got to focus on blessing others. That'll get you through the blitz and it'll bring good things. So let me just say one quick thing and then you can take it with more ideas for dads since I'm talking a lot. In this blitz of COVID-19 economic shutdown, make this a time to listen to God like never before. That's number one. The Bible will come alive to you and you need his perspective or this won't make sense and you'll get scared and you can't calm your wife and your kids, right? Number two, play with your kids. Don't just be frustrated and look for some entertainment and be mad you can't find baseball games on TV. Get in the backyard and play baseball with your kid. Draw some cool things with your daughter. Get out the iPad and do something with her. Take her for a walk. Take your son for an adventure. You can't connect to other people, but you can connect to each other.
That's right.
All right. So number one is connect to God. Number two, connect to your kids. And number three is, if you're married, just ask her at a nice calm time, 0 to 10, why don't you rate our relationship? And then ask her, well, what do you think it would take to move it closer to a 10? Don't roll your eyes when she says it's a 3. Accept that and accept her coaching. It's a free counselor. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to pay any money. So get close to God vertically. Get close to your kids. Start having fun right now. And roll up your sleeves on teaching them a few things, for school. And number 3, make some changes as a husband or with the mom of your kids who you talk to on the phone. And you could ask her the same question. Hey, you and I need to get along. You love the kids. I love the kids. 0 to 10, how's our relationship? And what do you think I could do to make it better? You're not saying it in a romantic way. You're saying it in a partnership way. But for husbands, you're saying it in I want to love you better. And guess what? This will benefit you in the long run and your kids.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing at Blitz.
Yeah. Wow, Jeff, that coaching is so practical and so helpful and so timely right now. When you think about a personal story of a time where you got knocked down, young dad years, something hard happened, but God taught you something from that tough moment that changed the way you approached being a dad. Can you think of a story like that you'd be willing to share with us?
Sure. I'm going to start with now, and maybe a way back one will come to me.
Sure.
Remember, I've had a lot of concussions, so I have a great excuse for not being able to remember all the past. Only about 6 or 7 months ago, we had done some family time together. My mom had rented a beach house, and my wife and my son and his son and I were at this beach house for the last days after everyone else left. And one day, my 35-year-old son asked me, if I would come in from the beach early enough to get to dinner by 6:15 so that he could put their 3-year-old to bed on time. And I came in at 6:15 instead of in time to go to dinner by 6:15. I had to shower. My apology, Jeff, was like this. Oh, sorry about that. I just blew it off. I really didn't pay attention to his priority. Then we went to dinner and he didn't want me to eat the cornbread that they brought out piping hot. I was starving from time on the beach. They didn't want me to eat that. He didn't want me to eat that. He said, Dad, can you not eat the cornbread till they bring the food? Because I don't want, our son to start wanting that food.
Sure.
And so we tried to hide the cornbread. Well, guess what I did? After a couple of minutes, I was so hungry, I just kind of leaned in front of the little kid and kind of snuck the cornbread from behind the ketchup where they'd hidden it. And I started eating cornbread. I think I had 2 pieces. And his jaw was dropped. He was incredulous. And he said to my wife after the trip, what's up with Dad? He can read the Bible an hour a day. It's still all about him. I was going into a self-assessment and learning time. I was blitzed by hurting my son's feelings, showing my character to be weak, and really blowing it, right? In 2 ways. Coming in late, not apologizing, and then cornbread. And so I did. I asked God, what's going on? Coach me up. And I realized I have a problem with personal convenience selfishness. I'm a macro ministry guy. I'm unselfish in big things. But I got selfishness on the freeway, on a vacation, wanting to ski the powder first, wanting to watch my show, wanting not to put down the phone so I have to listen to you. I'm selfish. And so I wrote myself an assessment of myself. I called up my son. I told him I really learned some things about myself. I blew it 2 times, and I know I've done it many more times in life, but I want to apologize for both those. Will you please forgive me? I have never had such a good conversation with him. He immediately accepted my apology, said, oh, Dad, we all got to change. Don't worry, man. I got some stuff I need to change. And then he apologized to me for something. I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm the schmuck. And all of a sudden, both our relationships are getting better. And I sent him the email of what I'd written about myself. I did an assessment of myself. And I called my other sons and I said, hey, you guys, I'm learning some things that I just want to apologize for in general. I'm going to send it to you, okay? This is the best parenting of adult children I've done. And I would say, Jeff, that if you go back to when my kids were distant, some days I was super fun and loose. Other days I got serious and I said, oh, I got to lay down the law. There are things that I should apologize for way back then. And I think your greatest action step, and frankly, it's kind of how to handle the blitz, because we blow it. We lose our temper. We don't show up to their Little League practice or game on time or at all. We say something mean to mom, we don't follow through on a promise. We come home late from work and we don't have time to play catch in the backyard. Those aren't opportunities to blow it off and try to do better. Those are opportunities to go straight into it and apologize fully and say, I was wrong. I hurt you. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. That's not the way I'm supposed to be. Will you please forgive me? Remember, Daddy's not perfect. I need to grow. So pray for me. But I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? That just trains your kids on how to humble themselves and go to God, how to apologize to a sister or a sibling or a teammate. So that's an example.
That's really, really helpful, Jeff. So helpful. I know that often we learn from what we saw from our dad as a son, his approach to fatherhood, and we pass some of it through on accident and some of it through on purpose to how we walk out the role of being a dad. Can you talk a little bit about your dad and what you learned from him that you passed along, and then anything you chose to go a different direction?
First of all, my dad, who was imperfect in some significant ways, like all of us, all right, was an amazing encourager, the best encourager ever. And I think encouragement is one of the hugest parts of being a dad, okay? There's this thing called the Gideon principle. I love the story of Gideon because when Gideon was hiding and scared and 19 or 20 years old and not ready to go fight anyone or lead an army, he was hiding in a wine press, beating on some wheat, trying to eat it without the enemy stealing it from him. That's when the angel of the Lord, God, Jesus, showed up and said, oh, Gideon, great and valiant warrior, mighty man of valor, the Lord is with you. God named Gideon what he was going to become before he was that. That was like my dad. My dad, every time we left the house, hey, Jeff, remember, you're a Kemp, be a leader. Hey, you're a Kemp, be a leader. We're proud of you. You're a great leader. Hey, you're a Kemp, be a leader. He told my sisters that, my brother that. He wrote it in little notes. If I had my journal with me, I think it's downstairs. There's a note I found the other day. He used to write notes to us, leave it on the spot at the table, put it on our pillow, put it in my Jeep in the morning before I'd go off to work when I was working in the summers in college. They were called JFK grams, Jack French Kemp. Those are his initials. Yeah. And he'd just write encouraging notes. He'd put Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, that kind of thing. I'm proud of you. I believe in you. One day he told me, Jeff, he said, because I'm a football player, right? And he loves my football games. He came to all my games. He'd fly anywhere from the country to get back to one of our games. We were on the phone. He goes, hey, I saw you playing today. You look great. I said, Dad, I didn't even get in the game. I was so mad and frustrated because I've been on the bench a lot. My career was long, but I really was a late bloomer. And anyway, he said, oh, I know you didn't get to play, but I saw you warming up. You're throwing great. Dad would find whatever he could and encourage it. And so I know that I am a leader today. I'm a speaker. I'm a vision caster. I'm an encourager. I'm a Gideon principal dude because of my dad. Now, my dad did it largely around leadership and performance, which are good things, but you can't build your identity on performance. Because if you're an NFL quarterback as an identity and you blow your knee out or you get cut, you lose it, right? If you get a D on a test, does that mean your identity is stupid, right? If your girlfriend breaks up with you, are you unlovable? No, you don't build your identity on performance. And a dad's job is to build a kid's identity, your son or daughter's identity, on number one, relationship with God. Number two, relationship with you. And number three, their character. So you say things to your kids like, you know what? God doesn't make junk. And I know you're not happy with your pimples, but you are awesome. You're a stud. God made you. He's so in love with you. He let Jesus die for you. And I'm your daddy, and I will always love you, and I'm proud of you. Yeah. And you know what? You have been doing such a great job staying up late to do your homework. You got perseverance. Dude, you'll succeed at anything in life if you got perseverance. I believe in you. You're a success. That's the Gideon principle. I picked it up from my dad. I'm practicing with my sons. But I'm trying to make sure that it's more about speaking their character and their faith and the security of their relationships, both with God and with me, into them, more so than performance. You know, you're a great leader. You're going to be a superstar quarterback. Wow, you're such a good singer. Those performance things aren't as important as a dad as the faith, the relationships, and the character. Yeah. And again, we're speaking who they're going to become, not who they are right now.
So powerful. Speaking life into, again, drawing out, this is true about you, but it might not be true today, but I can still speak it over my kids.
Yeah. And the reason we can do this is because God sees us. He sees the whole movie right now. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's outside of time. He sees the past, the present, and the future. And he knows who you're going to become. 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, he knows who you'll be in heaven. Cool thing is, he says, hey, Jesus died on the cross. Jesus lived a perfect life. You trust in Jesus, you get credit for his perfection. I'm going to call you righteous, and you're my adopted son. You're my beloved. I'm pleased with you like I was with him because of him. Yep. So if that's who you're going to become in heaven, perfect, with Jesus' character, he gives you credit for it right now. We need to forgive ourselves. Yeah. Accept that identity, and then help bring that identity to other young men and young women, and particularly our sons and daughters.
Yeah. Talk for a moment a little further on time horizon and thinking as a young dad. I'm 38. I'm right in those window of young kids. They're calling for me right now, actually. Thinking longer time horizon to our perspective on what's important. Can you talk about that concept?
Yeah. Well, Facing Blitzes starts with begin with the end in mind. Think long term. You are raising this kid not so you can have fun and have him get a scholarship, not so they behave and your wife and your life is easy, not so he plays Major League Baseball and lives out the dreams that you couldn't live out. Yeah. You're raising this kid because God gave him to you as a gift. Right. And your dad job is stewardship. See this canister here, okay? I have this in my home, but I don't actually own this. This belongs to God. He gave it to me. He gave me my brain. He gave me this house. He gave me my life. He gave me my 4 sons. I'm stewarding this with open palms versus gripping it like a guy that has to make his kids turn out right. You get it? So the whole key here is to think long term about stewarding our kids and helping their heart fall in love with Jesus. I love that little one that you just showed me there in your lap. That's the biggest smile and the greatest joy. But what's your child's name?
Her name's Rhea. Yep.
Rhea doesn't belong to you and your wife.
That's right.
She belongs to someone way better, way more loving, even better looking than you.
That's right.
She belongs to God, and you are the steward. And if you act like a steward, you'll do a better job than if you're acting like the owner. Okay, so that's the long-term perspective. Remember, you're raising this kid so that they find their way to the perfect daddy, the perfect father. So do a good job, but keep reminding him, man, I mess up, I'm imperfect, I need help from God. And he's the one who can fix everything in your life and guide you. Not make your life easy, but he can fix your soul. So you're guiding them to him. And then secondly, you're launching them to get out of the house and be their own adult. And then you're going to stop pulling strings and even giving advice and coaching. And that's hard because I love to coach. But man, I got to punch myself and stop myself from overcoaching my grown sons. So long-term perspective, hey, they belong to God. I'm going to give them back to God. And my goal is over these, 18 years to get them ready to launch. I hope they make a lot of their mistakes in the house with me, loving them and putting my arm around them saying, hey, that wasn't really too fun, was it? But you can make it through this. Let's learn from it. Rather than out of the house in college or when they're 25 or later on.
Right. Right. This is so helpful. And, you say you apologize for coaching too much your own kids, but the coaching that you're doing through this podcast right now, Jeff, is so helpful and so pointed, we can put these ideas into action.
They are. But when I'm coaching other men,
yeah.
You start shifting from being the leader, and being the coach and giving them a bunch of suggestions. And even asking them all sorts of questions. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about? You start backing off from that consulting role, in high school and college, to pretty soon you're just the cheerleader and the prayer warrior. And then the goal is that they would come back around and want to be your friend, and that you'd be so honest with them that they'd be comfortable being honest with you. And so you got to stop acting like you got your act together. You got to get off the pedestal. They automatically think you're a big deal because you're daddy. Let them know you're imperfect. And they don't want to repeat your stupid stories. So tell them some of your stupid stories. Let them laugh at you. And then be careful not to overcoach. And obviously, I've made mistakes in that area. And my best fathering has been when I apologized for doing it.
It's powerful. Was there any other just dad ideas or challenges that you wanted to lay to our Dad Awesome community before I let you go?
I'll give a metaphor or two. Think of your kid's heart like a gas tank in your car. Okay. When there's plenty of gas, things go pretty well. When there's no gas in that tank, ain't going anywhere. You're going to get terrible behavior and bad feelings. And your kid goes in the tank. They may go dark. They're more vulnerable to tears and drugs and drinking and porn and this and that when their love tank is empty. So our job, dads and moms, is to parent their heart, not just their behavior. And you can correct their behavior, but you can blow them away with how much you love them. All right, so keep their love tank filled up. Right, that's number one. Number two, they need a GPS for life, right? They need a navigation system. And you can't give them a formula that says, follow all these rules, stay in all these boundaries. You got to give them more of a lodestar and a GPS system that they can start learning to make their own decisions. So that's where storytelling and then tying it to biblical principles makes sense. Yep. Let them use the principles, but tie it to stories versus, oh, it's just a rule, you broke it, this is the law, you messed up, that kind of thing. So fill the love tank, give them a GPS, all right? And the third thing is they got to know their identity, all right? And that's what we talked about, the Gideon principle.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this time. Jeff, would you say a prayer over all of us listening as we close?
Yeah. God, you're a perfect daddy. You're an amazing Abba Father. And we'd like to be forgiven for looking at you wrong and not having an accurate picture of you. And a bunch of us dads have thought, hey, God's good, but I think I have a little bit better idea how I want my life to go, which means we're not entrusting ownership to you fully. And that's unwise, because we're not as good an owner as you. You're way more kind and benevolent and wise than us. So God, just help us dads, to all the guys I'm being heard by right now. Help us to figure out what it is to give you ownership of our life and let you be our total father. And once we do that, we'll realize our kids belong to you. And if we're married, our wife and our marriage belongs to you, and everything else. And we want to love our sons and love our daughters and raise them as stewards, since they belong to you. So God, help these guys. Help them be honest and humble, to learn, to apologize, truly ask forgiveness, to build their kids up, and to call out the character and faith and relationships of the future in their kids now. Bless these guys. Bless their marriages. In Jesus' name, amen.